Murry Ridge Park is located north of Route 30 and west of North Donnerville Road. The stream begins at the northeast corner. None of this stormwater runoff is treated or filtered by water quality BMPs prior to entering the stream. The park receives stormwater runoff from an upland area in the Little Conestoga Creek watershed. The stormwater runoff is from an area of approximately 45 acres, including 13 acres of impervious surface. Existing conditions include the stream running through the park. The outfall from the existing basin, and an existing open area that was underutilized and required weekly maintenance. The existing basin required regular mowing and did little more than slow the water on its way to the stream. The solution: to divert the untreated runoff through a vegetated swale to a bioretention basin planted with native plant species to filter and treat the water through the infiltration and absorption. Additionally, a riparian buffer and nature trail were included in the project. The vegetated swale will convey stormwater runoff to a new bioretention basin. The basin will be planted with a variety of native shrubs and perennials that filter sediment. The existing detention basin will be redesigned as an extended dry detention basin. This allows for sediment to settle out into the basin prior to being discharged downstream. Structure will be installed to avert stormwater flows from the stream and into the vegetated swale. Native trees and shrubs will be planted along 900 feet of the stream. Trees were provided by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation's Keystone 10 Million Tree Project and planted by Eagle Scout Jacob Krabeck, the Boy Scouts, and township staff. Additional native plantings will be installed throughout the park to provide a buffer. West Hempfield Township would like to thank DEP and the Lancaster Clean Water Partners for funding, the Little Conestoga Watershed Alliance for its support, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation for trees, and others for their help and support also. Well, good morning, everybody. It's Dwayne, West Hempfield Township, of course. Murry project is the first project that we as a township did within our PRP project. This is a small project, not one of our larger ones that we'll be doing, but the first one we got started with. The project itself kind of grew out of an idea I had back when I was still in public works, doing my normal day-to-day routines and stuff, working in the parks and other areas like that. I had noticed that there was stormwater dumped directly into the beginning of the west branch of the Little Conestoga. And being concerned, not really involved in stormwater at that time, it just kind of concerned me that that kind of thing was happening. As I got more involved with the stormwater, the township that had me moved me into the MS4 program. That sort of thing just stuck in the back of my mind, and I thought we need to do something about that. A little over a year ago, we started working on our PRP projects and getting those lined up. The grant opportunity came up, and with Kara Collefson's help, we managed to put together a program and start to apply for the grants, and that's what we culminated in this project. Looking at the CS Datum program there, the drainage area starts up in this area here, comes down through and empties out right into the beginning of the stream. This is the couple of springs right in this area that are where the headwater starts. I'll zoom in there a little bit. This area here was really pretty well underused. It's just a large grass area. The basketball courts right in this area, parking area, existing nature trail that goes around, the existing detention basin right in this area here. The stream itself was fairly open, unprotected the whole way along, generally mowed the whole way down to the banks. So started to think, I kind of had this idea, I proposed it to Kara, and she fleshed it out as an idea. And let's see here. There's the one I want. Then culminated in our initial concept plan. Initially, we had thought about bringing some other stormwater into it. We decided not to include that in the current project. But we wanted to shade and protect the existing stream, divert the stormwater from being dumped directly into the stream, and get it out into a vegetated swale, infiltration areas, bioretention, and get it treated before any of the remainder of it was left to go into the stream. Along with that, we've decided to retrofit this basin to an extended retention basin, and so that's how we came up then with the plan for it. This was the overall plan. Here you can see the vegetated swale. Part of the rest of the project too that we decided to include in it was the meadow areas, larger grass area to help retain stormwater, repairing buffers along it here, and nature trail the whole way around it there. One of the other ideas and one of the things that we think about a lot is where are the best places to start within a stream system, and that is generally in the headwaters. And quite often we don't always have those opportunities, but that was another thing that made this a very ideal project, was we were starting right in the headwater. I also know from past experience that rainfall, heavy rains in this area do contribute to flooding much further downstream along the west branch of the Little Conestoga. So the thought there was, if we can begin to mitigate some of that as it is happening, slowing that down, retaining the water, would be able to help our neighbors further downstream also. Construction started last spring. Of course, with the COVID issues and pandemic issues, we did have some problems getting permitting done, but we managed to get through that. Once we had a lot of the construction taken care of, not quite finished yet, we did get hit with a 4-inch rain in that area. This is a picture of the existing basin after it was retrofitted. We managed to contain that 4-inch rain without any of it going over the banks or being left out without normal infiltration release. This is the box where we diverted the water from the stormwater system into the vegetated swale. In this box, there is a divider plate, 2-foot high divider plate, directs water out down the swale to the retention area down here. This is the existing outfall from the original storm. So. Andrew, did you have anything?
Not yet.
Okay. It's really about all I have, other than if there's any questions or discussion on it.
So I want to let you finish, Dwayne, but since you are, I'm Andrew Stern, the township manager here, Dwayne's boss. Just a few comments from my perspective. First of all, it's important to have a champion of your projects. Dwayne was our champion of this project. As he explained, it was something that was personal to him, something that he saw and observed in public works as a problem with a solution, and that really helped the process. Many of us are putting together projects simply to meet our PRP requirements with DAP, and some of those projects, perhaps we might scratch our heads and wonder, is it really going to help, or is it just going to check off a box on our PRP? This project is going to help stormwater. It's going to help with our park. It's going to help the community, and it's going to check a box for DEP for our PRP. So it was a win all around. Another important part of this, specifically related to Dwayne, but Dwayne was in public works for a number of years before we moved him up to zoning planning MS4, which today, for those of you that have snow, which is probably all of you, I know Dwayne is grateful to be dealing with stormwater and planning and zoning instead of driving a plow around. But that's been a tremendous asset, and you've heard that probably in a few of the other sessions. East Lampeter, their public works director and their planning director work very closely together. So having someone who has worked in the field with stormwater, hands-on, with cleaning out inlets, with dealing with flooding and stormwater issues, and then coming to the admin side to help us create projects, has been a tremendous value to us. Rather than me just working with a map and coming up with ideas, I have someone that's been out there and knows where the problems are and has an idea of what we can do to fix it. Another great thing of this project, Dwayne mentioned it's one of our smallest projects, although it was about $175,000, $180,000, so it's not tiny. But having a smaller project at the beginning of our PRP project list really helped us identify what our strengths and weaknesses are as a municipality. We are relatively new to stormwater. In the past, we have fixed things when they break, but we never really took on large projects. We have received over $2 million in grants in 2020 for projects that will be constructed over the next several years. And while that's awesome news for us, it's also very scary. We have never taken on that many projects in a short period of time. So this project gave us the opportunity. It was on our own property. So if we messed up, we could fix it and not have a landowner mad at us. It gave us the opportunity for our public works guys to show us their skills, what they could and couldn't do, how far we could push them. We rented several pieces of equipment to let them use that we didn't own and hadn't used previously on projects. So that really helped us out. And on the administration side, dealing with grants, we really hadn't administered grants well in the past or at all. So this really gave us an opportunity to determine how, when we move forward with 7 or 8 different grants, how we're going to keep track of paperwork, how we're going to share documents between Dwayne's office, my office, and our engineer, Kara, at Ritu. And we did make errors along the way, which is good in that we learned from those errors, and we're preparing to make sure we don't make those errors with the larger projects that are coming. And as Dwayne indicated, we did get the grant through the Lancaster Clean Water Partners, so thank you to them. And but that was a process in itself, trying to pick the best possible project to put forward for grant, and determining this particular grant was relatively new as well. So determining, did we want to offer to give a match? Did we not want to offer a match? How did we want to do the funding? How much work did we want to do ourselves? How much work did we want to contract out, which we ended up not contracting any of it out, I believe. Dwayne, correct?
Oh,
so this project was really a winner in many ways. It is complete despite COVID, because we did all the work ourselves. We were able to complete it on time. It's done. The grass will be growing if the snow ever melts. Yeah. And then hopefully, as Dwayne said, we can continue to plant trees. I believe this summer we hope to repave the walkways and expand the walkways and put some educational signs up, so the public walking around can understand what we did. During construction, we had a number of phone calls from people asking what the big hole in the ground's for, and why we're moving a pile of dirt from the right side of the park to the left side of the park. And we did, I think, a good job explaining it. It was in our newsletter on our website, but we want to put educational signs out so everyone else who walks through there can understand why we did what we did and how it's benefiting everybody, not just our township, not just our park, but everybody downstream of our project. And Kara from R2 just commented in chat, and we achieved sediment reduction of 18,818 pounds a year. And we will be, this was not one of our PRP projects, so we will be updating our PRP later this summer. We, as many of you, when we did our original PRP, it was a mad dash to the finish line, not knowing which landowners would agree to projects, etc. So we threw together the best we could. But since then, we've come up with some better projects. So we will update our PRP with those better projects, including this one. So other questions, comments? Kara, feel free to chime in here. Kara from R2 was the engineer for this project. So she has all the technical info if anyone is interested in that.
Yeah, I just want to add that this is Kara. It was really impressive to see the public works staff learn how to implement the BMPs. I think there was a learning curve at the beginning, not only trying to understand what the purpose was of these facilities, but learning how to read grading plans and the construction plans that we did prepare for them. So I think it's really going to go a long way because they're going to be responsible for maintaining these infrastructures, and having an understanding of how they were built is, I think, going to help them in the long run. So.
Absolutely. And I wish our public works crew could be on today. They were on yesterday. Unfortunately, today they decided to go plow our streets instead of participate in this. But definitely, it was a huge change from before this project to after the project, with their understanding of why we're doing it, how it needs to be done, and that was awesome. And they saved us, easily saved us $30,000–$40,000 by not having to put it out to bid, not having to pay prevailing wage. So that was awesome.
I would throw one other thing in there. I did forget to mention, we did manage to do some educational work with it, and also reached out and partnered with the Hempfield Lancaster Rotary Club. They provided a small grant for some of the signage that we'll be doing, and also for pet waste stations. So we also used it as a public education, public involvement project too.
Okay, thank you. We do have a couple of questions that have come through in the chat. I don't know, Andrew, if you can, I don't have to read them if you.
Yeah, I see them. There's a question about when we update our PRP, will we use a BMP menu? And I know that came up a couple times yesterday as well. I'm going to have to look to Kara for that. My answer would be probably not, because we have more than enough projects funded at this point for this current PRP. But
yeah, that's correct. So 2 of the projects that were identified in the PRP, 2 stream restorations, are in the works. And so those 2 plus the Murry Ridge Park will give you the reductions you need for this permit period.
And that's a great problem to have. You know, when we first started the PRP planning process, we had no idea how we'd come up with enough projects to meet our requirements. And now we have essentially a waiting list of projects. So that's a great problem to have, I suppose. Question about the mapping system. We use CS Datum, which some of you may have just been on that session with Carolyn. But it's through CS Davidson, it's CS Datum. Dwayne is our resident expert on that. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, very good program, very in-depth program. Definitely, if you have interest in that, reach out to Jordan Good from CS Datum or CS Davidson. I started working with the program about 5 years ago, and really got to know it. But it is very in-depth and well done program. Yes. Were there any specific questions regarding the program itself?
Yeah, how does it interface with GIS? We have a lot of things in GIS.
It's its own mapping system.
So it is, and this is Andrew again. I used ArcGIS for years before Dwayne introduced me to CS Datum, and so I'm used to that world. And it was a little hard for me to adjust at the beginning because CS Datum is its standalone GIS. But for those of you dealing specifically with stormwater and MS4, CS Datum really focuses on your needs for that and doesn't overwhelm you with all the tools and features and technical requirements that ArcGIS or Esri provide. And I will point out, and first of all, Jessica Fieldhouse from CS Davidson, it looks like she just joined the meeting. So she's another person you can reach out to at CS Davidson. And also, Kara pointed out, I'm sure Jessica will in a minute if I don't say this, you can upload GIS layers and your ArcGIS data into CS Datum. So we use both here. Dwayne focuses more on the CS Datum side of it with MS4, and I do more with ArcGIS with zoning and planning in what I do from day to day.
We also use CS Datum as our permit management system.
There's another question. Did you consider any stream work as well, or was it too stable? So stream, there weren't really any stream components to this specific project. We do have other projects related to stream bank restoration in our PRP, but this particular project did not include or have a need to address stream work, other than the work that Dwayne already mentioned within our property.
Yeah, that was correct. The stream is fairly stable, but really just needed more protection from the buffer and stuff.
Okay, we still have about 20 minutes for questions. Are there any more for Andrew and David?
There's a comment here that Raffo Township also uses CS Datum. I apologize, I keep saying Datum when I should say Davidson and vice versa, but Raffo uses it for stormwater signs, traffic roads, a number of municipalities. I don't know, Jessica, maybe you know how many municipalities currently use CS Datum. You can either say it or...
You know what, Andrew? I don't know the total number of municipalities, but I know that our clients spread across Adams, Dauphin, York, and Lancaster.
So, Jess, no one really knows the right answer, so you can just say millions and we won't know any different. Millions and millions. Another question, for stream restoration projects you have slated, how far along in the process are you? We have seen in other municipalities that the awarded credits are significantly lower than what was estimated. So for other projects, we're pretty much at the beginning. As I said, we received numerous grants mid to late 2020, and that's been a very slow process with contracts, paperwork, understanding how the administration of those grants is going to work, understanding how the matches are going to work. It's just a lot of bureaucracy. So we're still working through that. And for a couple of the projects, Kara from R2 has started the permitting process, as well as the final design engineering. So we have not started construction on any of the other projects yet. For the most part, we might be able to do one or two of them in late this year, but most of the projects are probably going to be constructed in 2022 and hopefully finishing up in 2023. Our township was also one of a number that were delayed in receiving our MS4 permit, our general permit. We didn't receive it for a year after it should have been received, which also means that we have an extra year after everyone else's 5 years expire to finish our project. So we're a little bit behind. Dan Daly says, asked, did you disturb more than 1 acre? And if so, did you need to obtain an NPDES permit for this work? I think it was 0.9999, Dwayne.
Yeah, exactly.
I can address that. So total disturbance would have been a little bit over 1 acre, but we discussed this with the conservation district, and because all of the work for the existing detention basin retrofit was going to occur within the boundary of that existing basin, it was considered remediation work and maintenance and would not be considered as new disturbance. And the large lawn area that was where the new bioretention basin was going was actually, there was actually a berm constructed during the installation of the tennis court and parking area. So it was already approved as a detention area. And so it was the same thing there, that any work included within the boundary of the existing basin would be considered maintenance and not be considered new disturbance. And so the only new disturbance was for the vegetated swale, which was under 1 acre. So the only permit we had to get a general permit for the pipe outlet from the bioretention basin into the stream, which didn't take very long through this conservation district.
Next question from Tara. Did township staff, engineer, or a grant writing consultant assist with the grant applications? We did this ourselves, the township staff and Kara from Ritu. We had looked into hiring a grant writer, and we had taken it to the board, and they really didn't want to spend the money on it. We had very little experience with grants, and we didn't really want to spend a lot of money on a grant writer when we had no idea what our chances of actually getting the grant would be. So it's kind of a gamble, but it paid off. Every grant we applied for in 2020, we were approved.
2020, yeah.
So I'm grateful for all those grants, but it's also, I'll say, made us a little fearful of how we're going to take on all those projects. We did much better than we thought we would do, and now we have a lot of grants and a lot of projects to figure out what we're going to do with it. But Kara Ritu has worked closely with Dwayne and I, and I think the key to these grants is really understanding what the grants are and how to mold a project that fits the grant requirements, and not trying to stretch a grant to make it fit a project. So do you have another question? Do you have a general permit or an individual permit? We have heard that those on the general permit will not receive a time extension for projects to complete, even if their permits are still not approved. So we have a general permit, assuming you're referring to MS4, we have a general permit. However, the municipalities in the Chickies watershed, which were one, although this project is not a Chickies project, but we are in the Chickies watershed. So for whatever reason, DEP held up our permit approval for a year. And as a result of that, they granted us an additional year. So basically our 5 years started when the general permit was approved for us. So it's a little unique and bizarre. We assume that the requirements for the next PRP will be very different than the current PRP, and we'll still be working under the old rules for a year into the new rules. So we'll figure out how that works in 2023. Other questions, comments? If not, again, this was an awesome experience for us, and I thank Dwayne and Kara. We dove into this, not really knowing 100% for sure what we were doing, and we learned a heck of a lot from it and ended up with an awesome project. And yes, Jacob just posted his comment, which is basically what I said, the 5-year timeline for PRP implementation. begins on the effective date of the issued permit for both GP and IP. I'm not exactly sure if he's saying exactly what I'm saying. It's a little odd because the general permit had an effective date a year before it was approved for us. So for us, it's 5 years from when we were specifically told we could proceed, rather than the effective date of the general permit itself. And if you need further clarification on that, someone from DEP would have to explain it. Anybody else? It looks like we have 10 more minutes, so I could tell some jokes maybe. If not, thank everybody for joining us. Dwayne and I, and I'm sure Kara, would all welcome any emails, phone calls, if you have follow-up questions, if you can't sleep tonight because of something we said. There's a question from Kara. Did your public works staff enjoy working on the project? They loved it, Kara, you know that. I think at the beginning of the project, they did not love it. I think they were a little apprehensive about taking on the project, a little apprehensive about how to physically do the work, about the equipment they were going to need to do the work. There were some issues with engineering drawings that they were not accustomed to. But by the end of the project, I think most of them enjoyed doing it. Dwayne?
I think it was a learning curve for all of us the whole way through. I think the whole thing was a good learning experience for everybody.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So I mean, you used the township staff to construct it. Who's going to be maintaining it?
We will. Township.
Yeah.
It's our property. It's our park. Now, without making it too complicated, we have a recreation commission that serves 4 municipalities in the school district. We have a separate agreement with them to maintain our parks. So they will technically be assisting us in the maintenance of this park. If it's a specific stormwater issue, our public works folks will be doing it. If it's general with the park, then it would be the rec commission.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we can hang around for a little bit longer to see if there's more questions. If not, then I think we'll be leaving. Actually, Liz, will be jumping right into the next. I think we're jumping right into the next case study session. So you'll have 3 more to choose from,
Yes.
starting at 11:10. Oh,
Yes,
there's
we're
a
jumping
question.
right into it.
We did have a question, just came from Tara. Given the educational component of the project, has this project led to any changes in your MCM 6 good housekeeping? I'm not sure how to answer that, Dwayne.
That is one thing I definitely want to look at and pursue. No, we have not had a chance to really look at that yet, but as we wrap up the project, we have a couple of things to touch up with it yet, but no, that will definitely be something we'll be looking at.
And Tara, I'll say we were in your programs yesterday and today, so we'll probably steal some of your good work and implement it into our good housekeeping. So thank you.